In the early years of World War II, the German panzer divisions dominated Europe. Their tanks were fast, precise, and terrifyingly effective. But by 1943, a new machine began appearing on the battlefields, the American M4 Sherman. It didn't look impressive, flat armor, small gun, and high profile, yet it kept rolling forward. Again and again, German commanders were confused. The Shermans just wouldn't stop coming. Every time one was destroyed, another took its place within hours. To the Germans, it seemed as though the Allies had found a way to mass-produce resilience. It wasn't the strongest tank, but it was always there. Soon, German engineers were ordered to study it, to find out what made this average tank so unstoppable. They thought the secret lay in its armor, but they were wrong. In 1943, near Tunisia, German forces captured an intact Sherman tank. It was a rare opportunity. A fully functional enemy machine. Engineers transported it back to testing grounds in Kummersdorf, Germany. There, they began the meticulous task of taking it apart. Bolt by bolt, they measured its armor, inspected its transmission, and analyzed its turret mechanics. The first impression was dismissive, too thin, too simple, they said. Compared to a Tiger or Panther, the Sherman looked crude. Its armor could barely stop an 88mm shell, and its gun lacked range. German officers mocked the design, calling it a tin box. But when engineers looked deeper, something didn't add up. Despite its weaknesses, the Sherman kept winning battles. They realized they weren't studying a tank, they were studying a system. The German engineers began with the engine, the Sherman's beating heart. It wasn't a high-performance monster like in the Tiger. Instead, it was a reliable, mass-produced power plant, easy to fix, easy to replace. The transmission was simple, rugged, and forgiving to inexperienced drivers. Every part seemed designed for practicality, not perfection. Its suspension, though less advanced, could handle rough terrain with ease. The tank could be repaired in the field with basic tools, and unlike the heavy German tanks, it rarely broke down. Suddenly, the engineers understood. This was a tank built for endurance, not glory. It was made to be maintained, not admired. Where Germany built masterpieces, America built machines for men, and that, they realized, was the first secret. German engineers prided themselves on precision. Every Tiger and Panther was an art piece, elegant, but over-engineered. Each tank required skilled hands and rare materials. In contrast, the Sherman was built like a farm tractor, stamped parts, interchangeable fittings, and straightforward assembly. Its manufacturing was decentralized across dozens of American plants. Factories that once made cars and tractors now produce tanks. The simplicity meant thousands could be built quickly and repaired easily. German mechanics needed hours to fix a broken gear. Americans needed minutes. This philosophy of good enough over perfect baffled the Germans. But it also terrified them. They saw the industrial power of democracy turned into steel. Frontline German commanders began sending back reports. They noted how Shermans seemed to return to battle within hours of being hit. Damaged tanks were repaired right on the battlefield. Crews swapped engines, guns, and tracks like puzzle pieces. Even fuel and ammunition were standardized. Nothing was wasted. Meanwhile, damaged Panthers often had to be abandoned. Their parts were too unique, too complex to replace easily. German soldiers called Shermans cockroaches, impossible to kill permanently. Each one destroyed was quickly replaced by another. The engineers realized this was logistics as warfare. The Allies weren't fighting with tanks, they were fighting with systems, and systems win wars. The Tiger I was the pride of German engineering. Its armor was nearly impenetrable, its gun deadly accurate, but it weighed over 50 tons and required constant maintenance. A single broken track could immobilize it for hours. Its fuel consumption was catastrophic, -500 liters per 100 kilometers. Moving a Tiger required logistics that Germany couldn't sustain. Meanwhile, Shermans could cross bridges, rivers, and muddy fields with ease. They could be transported by rail, shipped overseas, or repaired under fire. The Tiger was a masterpiece trapped in its own perfection. The Sherman was a worker, humble but unstoppable. In war, the engineers began to see Practicality was mightier than luxury, and the Tiger's growl began to sound hollow. By late 1943, German engineers secretly began copying Sherman design elements. They experimented with modular parts and simplified welding techniques. The Panther's later models even adopted some American-inspired efficiency, but their industrial base couldn't match the American scale. Bombing raids crippled production lines and fuel supplies. Germany couldn't afford to be simple. They were trapped by complexity. One German officer admitted, "The Sherman wins because it is ordinary." That statement became a quiet confession of defeat. Perfection was proving to be their downfall. The war was shifting toward those who could build, not just design. The Sherman was no genius. It was genius in mass, and that was its true weapon. American engineers had created something invisible yet powerful: logistics. Every Sherman tank shared parts with others across continents. Fuel, ammo, and mechanics were all standardized. Factories could churn out replacement parts faster than Germany could destroy them. This meant the Allies could lose tanks without losing momentum. A dead Sherman was simply a delay, not a disaster. Trains, ships, and trucks carried entire repair kits across the front. The tank was just one piece of a vast moving puzzle. German analysts realized the real armor of the Sherman was its supply chain. It wasn't steel that protected it. It was infrastructure. In modern terms, it was the first networked weapon of war, and Germany had no answer to that. The Sherman was also built for its crew. Its interior was roomy compared to the cramped German tanks. Visibility was better, with multiple periscopes and hatches. Training new crews was fast and straightforward. If one crew was lost, another could instantly take its place. Every soldier could operate the machine with minimal adjustment. German tanks demanded elite crews, and there weren't enough of them. The Sherman, however, made ordinary men into effective tankers. Its design empowered, not punished, its users. It was a tank built for a democracy's army, adaptable, replaceable, collective. The engineers finally realized this wasn't about metal, but mindset. America's strength was in its people, not just its machines. While German factories struggled under bombing, America built faster than ever. Women, immigrants, and mechanics from every background joined the effort. Assembly lines ran day and night, tanks rolling out by the hour. The U.S. produced nearly 50,000 Shermans during the war. Germany could barely produce a fraction of that in Panthers and Tigers combined. The Sherman wasn't the best, it was the most available. Quantity became its own quality. German analysts watching production figures were stunned. They realized the Allies weren't just fighting a military war. They were fighting an industrial revolution. And the Sherman was its steel ambassador. Each new shipment was another nail in the coffin of perfection. The age of mass production had won. On the battlefield, a Sherman facing a Tiger was outmatched. But Shermans rarely fought alone. They swarmed, flanked, and outmaneuvered. For every Tiger, there were 10 Shermans. Tactics replaced brute strength. Commanders learned to exploit numbers and mobility. The Sherman wasn't built to duel. It was built to cooperate. Each tank was part of a synchronized army machine. German tankers fought in isolation. American crews fought in coordination. The engineers saw the difference between a tank and a doctrine. The Sherman represented strategy. Made mechanical, it was war by teamwork. As the war progressed, Shermans evolved. Some were fitted with better guns, like the British Firefly version. Others had improved armor or amphibious capabilities. The design adapted rapidly to every theater: Africa, Europe, Pacific. German engineers watched with disbelief. Their own tanks took years to refine. The Shermans changed monthly. This flexibility proved that simplicity allowed innovation. When a machine is easy to modify, it becomes timeless. The Sherman became a platform, not just a product. It fought until the end of the war and beyond. Its evolution showed what the Germans had missed. All along, perfection is the enemy of progress. In 1945, as Berlin fell, captured German engineers made a confession. They admitted they had underestimated the Sherman completely. They called it the tank that should not have won, but did. Its real genius wasn't in armor, gun, or speed. It was in how easily it could be built, fixed, and used. It represented the power of systems over symbols. The Tiger had pride. The Sherman had purpose. That purpose was efficiency, mobility, and human adaptability. And those qualities won the war of machines in the end. The engineers didn't just study a tank. They studied a new philosophy of warfare. And it changed their understanding of engineering forever. After 1945, the Sherman kept rolling in wars around the world. It served in Korea, the Middle East, and even into the 1970s. Nations used it because it was reliable, simple, and adaptable. Meanwhile, the Tiger became a museum piece, too complex for modern warfare. The Sherman's philosophy shaped post-war tank design globally. Even Soviet engineers borrowed ideas from its modular, efficient approach. Its DNA lived on in tanks, like the T-34's successors and American M60s. The German engineers' lesson became a global standard. Build for the soldier, not the showcase. Make machines that can live, not just fight. In peace, the Sherman became more than a weapon. It became a teacher. Its legacy rolled far beyond 1945. In the end, German engineers finally saw the truth. The Sherman's secret was never its armor or its gun. Its secret was its philosophy, to value function over form. It was a machine built not for glory, but for victory. It embodied the idea that resilience beats perfection, that thousands of good enough solutions can defeat one flawless one. Its story is not about metal, it's about mindset. A mindset that built, repaired, and advanced under fire. The Sherman proved that strength lies in adaptability, not appearance. And its lesson still echoes in factories and battlefields today, in every machine designed for the real world, not the ideal one. That was the Sherman's true armor.